All right, so today I'm going to be reading my verse of the day or night, I should say. So today we're reading Proverbs chapter 22, verse 4. And so it says, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor in life. Uh, I see another interesting one here in the same chapter 22. So Proverbs chapter 22, verse 2 states that the rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. So I was saying I've started breaking down my scripture using this method called GPS. So GPS basically says, what does the scripture talk about in relation to Jesus, in relation to people as a whole, and in relation to yourself? How can it be applied to yourself? So in relation to God, starting with, excuse me, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 2, it says, the rich and the poor meet together, the Lord is the maker of them all. So I think that this speaks to the potential and the fairness of God, you know, despite the socioeconomic status that we may view people through, that lens that we may view people through, we're all equal in the eyes of God. We're all his children, whether weak or poor. So, we should all be treated equally. We should all treat each other equally because, when we die, riches, poor, whether you're rich, doesn't really matter. All right. It also speaks to the infinite potential that God has given us in free will. God has given us the ability to become rich with his blessing, or the ability to become poor. Oftentimes, the ability to become rich, then poor, then rich again, or poor for a long time and then rich, in order to put obstacles in our path to gain our wealth, and then ultimately give it away to those, seeing as it's material we can't carry it to the afterlife, which I think is very interesting. So for people, it speaks to people because, as I said before, oops, sorry, it speaks to people because a lot of people discriminate against homeless people, or people that they see as lower than them, especially in a capitalist society like America. I know, I guess I'll save this part for self, but I guess I could talk about the overall social, you know, interactions between, homeless people and people with houses, or middle class people, even low income people. Um, a lot of working class people look down upon homeless people, saying, why can't you work? Not really acknowledging the solidarity as human beings that we have with them. Right? The city has taken precautions to put spikes on benches, to put measures in place to stop homeless people from, sleeping and living in certain areas, and it really shows the dissonance of humanity. All right, so for myself, I could try to not even like focus less on material wealth. I don't think I'm much of a material guy, but I think I should. As I'm getting money, my heart is starting to be swayed by the idea of money. You know, it's hard to balance the responsibility that you need without also idolizing it. It's a fine line that you gotta walk on, because once you idolize it, it's like, oh, money, money, money. You start acting like Mr. Krabs. Or it's either you act like Mr. Krabs and you're stingy, or you're not responsible, and then it's like there's a fine line where God has to be kept first, and then you have to acknowledge that wealth is only a vehicle through which you can spread your ideas and, you know gain the opportunities and the resources to bring your ideas to life and thoughts to life, so on and so forth. Now let's get on to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 4. Chapter 22, verse 4 states, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. So, what does it say about God? Okay, by humility and the fear of the Lord are riches. So, it says that it establishes the Lord's position above all. It relates directly to verse 22 because, as verse 22 says, the rich and the poor meet together, and the Lord is it italicizes the word is, which I think is important. So meet together is and maker of them all. All. God is all encompassing. No matter your socioeconomic status, we were all created by God. Here it says, by humility and the fear of God are riches and honor in life, right? So I think this is very interesting because the order that it says these words: riches, honor, life. Now, for some people, that's the order that they value things, right? They value riches over honor, they value honor over life. But I think that this is very intentional in the way that it puts these words in a list, because in actuality, the scripture is saying the opposite. That it goes life, honor, riches. The riches is the material plane, that's the base, that's the ground, that's the earth. But above that is your honor, your morals, what drives you. And above that is your life, how do you live? And then even higher above that is the one that granted you life. God stands above all. And I think that's what that verse is trying to say. So I think that's how it relates to God for people. I think I kind of covered that already, right? Where God, humility and the fear of the Lord, riches and honor and life. Where people where this list of virtues or things, maybe the way that people look at life, maybe the way that people build a list of the things, or prioritize certain things in their life, when really should be the opposite, right? That God stands above all of these things, right? That God created your life, instilled you with the ability to have honor and to create your own moral code, and He created the ground from which your riches dwell, or your riches come from, and He blesses you so that you may have riches. I think it was King Solomon, if I'm not mistaken, but he was one of the richest, wisest kings, with what could only be estimated to be billions of trillions of dollars, just gold by the wazoo. And that was all blessed by God. So God has the ability to grant those He favors and those that embody His teachings, vast wealth. And I think that's very cool. So for myself, I think this is a reminder to prioritize, God overall, to really establish that hierarchy early, because I plan to do great things with my life. I plan to, you know, I don't know, just create and learn, put things out into the world, and eventually become a father who stores a family, a Christ led family. I'd love to have that one day, when I'm ready by God's grace, that'll come to me. But I think I really need to prioritize that it goes God, and then it goes life, and then it goes honor, and then it goes riches, right? That's sort of a very simple way. This is like family, work, and all the little micro things in there. But I think this is a very good template for the way you should view life, because you know it really goes in an order of descending importance, right? Because if you're not alive, you can't have honor, and you're not going to be able to have riches, because in a spiritual plane or spiritual form, you can't really interact with the physical wealth of the world. So there's life and there's honor. What drives you, what guides you, what allows you to interact with people. Human beings have been proven to be very social creatures. So your moral compass is a very big important part of who you are. Then it goes riches, and it's like, okay, how do you interact monetarily with the world? How do you use that wealth? The wealth guided by the honor granted, what's it called? That's sustained by the life granted to you by God. And then God's virtues is the one that grants you riches. He's part of it all. And I think that all encompassing nature is very cool. I think it's very cool. And I think it's something that I struggle to wrap my head around sometimes. But when I do sort of get these moments where I'm like, oh, this is God, or like, oh, He's here, whether I feel Him or not, you know, I think that's really when I could feel my connection to God deepening. So yeah, that was me with my nightly Bible reading. I plan to read the Bible 15 minutes a day, every day, and then obviously increase it as the year goes on. 15 minutes being the bare minimum. So just want to try and integrate that in my schedule first. But yeah, that's cool.